Hi everyone, it's Claire back again. So today we're going to have a look at the China Glaze Paradise Collection. This is the summer collection. According to China Glaze, it's time to break out the bikinis and the bellinis and imagine a summer oasis of tropical colours. This collection I picked up from Nail Polish Direct. It was $49.95 pre-release. It was actually launched yesterday. So I can tell you straight away the headlines are there are 12 polishes, 5 of these polishes are matte. I would say that this is a real mixed bag collection. So there are 6 polishes that I would definitely wear again, including the one that I'm wearing now. 6 polishes that I would just not reach for and that I imagine I'm going to be destashing fairly quickly. As it turns out, I will go through comparisons, but the comparisons, they were more comparable in the bottle than they were on the nail. I think that's mainly because of the strange formula, with the mattes. So I would say this is 50-50. Hopefully this helps you decide if you need any, which ones you absolutely don't need, and yeah, let's make a start. The first polish is, I was actually quite pleased with this one because it's such a great formula. This is I'll Sand By You, which is a sandy beige neutral, and it's got in the bottle this really pretty gold shimmer. I would say this is more of a kind of gold dusting than a gold shimmer. Unfortunately, in daylight, in regular daylight, you just cannot see that flash on the nail. You can see it in direct artificial lighting, which you can see here, and in each of the swatches you will see a daylight picture, a flash picture, and where there are mattes I've also added a top coat. So I was actually quite impressed with the formula of this, but as you can see, in daylight you just really can't see anything of that gold flash. The nearest comparison that I have in my collection for the colour and the kind of gold shimmer effect is Polish M Bob from HR, which is from the Office Humour collection which Debbie sent me, and this is 3 coats, it's acrylic, and you can definitely see the gold shimmer in there. So yeah, good formula, can't see the gold. I don't know if you can see the shimmer in the bottle there. These 3 polishes, these are the ones that have got the matte formulas, so it's a kind of shimmer matte, and it's a really difficult formula to work with. I paint my nails every day and I struggled with all 3 of these. I think this one is probably the worst, All Sun and Games. This is described as a golden tangerine orange. I mean, they all required 3 coats, bald spots, really difficult. I did the 3rd coat off camera, so on the swatches you can see the 3 coats. This one is described, this is Tropic of Conversation, and this is described as a creamy peach. And this really bright pink here is called Don't Be Sea Salty, and it's described as a hot pop pink. So let's have a look at these 3 together. let's have a look at some comparisons. The colour is comparable, but this formula I've never seen before. The only thing I can compare it to as a formula is Flying Dragon, and that's my worst China glaze ever. I've talked about that several times, but that to me is just, this is a kind of Flying Dragon collection for me, or at least 50% of it is. So this one is All Sun and Games, and I think the most comparable thing that I have within China Glaze's own collection is Flip Flop Fantasy, but this is definitely more of a tangerine orange. So that's All Sun and Games, and that's Flip Flop Fantasy. If you put All Sun and Games over the white, which is in the collection a white matte polish, it looks like this. So you can kind of, I mean, I did this on the nail and it didn't look as good as this. So it looked better on the swatch wheel than it did on the nail. But yeah, I suppose you can do both. For the purpose of the swatches, I'm doing them on their own so you can see how they perform. And then Tropic of Conversation, I thought looked extremely similar. And it does look extremely similar in the bottle to Mimosas Before Manis, which is a great polish. And this is what they look like on the swatch wheel. So this is Tropic of Conversation and this is Mimosas Before Manis. So it's much different on the nail, on the swatch wheel, even though they look similar in the bottle. I think some of you might be wondering how similar this is, Don't Be Sea Salty, in shade to Bodysuit Yourself, which is a mini. I've got the mini version, but this came from the spring collection, and they are really quite similar in the bottle. But Don't Be Sea Salty is definitely brighter. It's kind of like, this is the spring version of this shade, and this is the summer version of this shade. So this is what they look like on the swatch wheel. This one is Don't Be Sea Salty, and this is Bodysuit Yourself. So yeah, again, they look very different. It's actually more similar, I think, to this really hot pink from Model's Own, which is Island Hop. So it's a bright pink, really difficult formula. So that's the three terrible ones that I won't be wearing again. So let's go back to a polish that I would wear again. This is a really pretty red. This one is Kiki in Our Tiki, and it's described as a hot flamingo red. This is very similar in shade to Cajun Shrimp, which I have destashed because I've got Ada's Nails Jenny, which was a dupe for Cajun Shrimp. So I'll show you a comparison of these two, but here's the swatch for Kiki in Our Tiki. And here's the comparison. They are very, very similar. This one is Kiki in Our Tiki, and this is Jenny from Ada's Nails, which is a dupe for Cajun Shrimp, OPI. They're very, very similar. I would say Jenny is a little bit more red, and there's a slight bit of deep orange, just a drop of orange in Kiki in Our Tiki. It's almost one coat. If you've got short nails, you may be able to get this opaque in one coat. I did two for the swatches, but yeah, I actually really like this one. Next is the white, and I was hoping for a nice white China Glaze polish, but no. This is Cabana Fever, and I was shocked at how horrible this was on the first coat. It's a white matte. You need 3 coats for this to be fully opaque. It's chalky, it's lumpy, it's just horrible. I would avoid this. It's like Tipp-Ex. Let's move on to a polish that I actually really liked. This is a very pretty, dusty rose shade to me, and this is called Can't Sandal This. This actually, I wasn't sure before I actually swatched this, but on the nail it really suited me. It's a bit of a grandma colour, but it's also, and it's not a very summery shade, but I actually really liked it and the formula was great. This is Can't Sandal This, which is described as a nude pink. And I don't have any dupes in my collection for this polish. Next up is the metallic, and this is MER-MADE for bluer waters, and yeah, it's very pretty. I've got similar polishes, nothing really unique about this. If you're looking for a shimmery metallic blue, it is a good formula on 2 coats. There's no brush strokes. It is actually quite a pretty polish. It's just not, it didn't grab me. Actually this one's growing on me a little bit, and also it helps that I've realised I don't really have anything that is a dupe. I thought I had lots of similar polishes. I've got some that are paler than this, and I've got like OPI's, this colour's Making Waves, which has got definitely a lot more green to it. But yeah, I did actually quite like this one in the end. So we're up to the final 4, and of those 4 I would say 3 are pretty good, especially if you don't have dupes for them. Unfortunately I kind of do, and there's also another matte lurking in there. But let's have a look at this really pretty blue. This is Water Falling in Love, and it's described as a soft baby blue, and yeah, this is really pretty in 2 coats. So unfortunately this is quite a dupeable shade, although this is a good formula if you're looking for a baby blue. I recently picked up Essie Blue La La, and they are very, very similar. This is slightly brighter. This is the Water Falling in Love, and this is Essie Blue La La, but they're very similar. It's a nice 2-coat baby blue cream. Next up is this really pretty purple that's kind of driving the camera a little bit wild. This is called Stop Beach-Frontin, and it's not as bright as it looks in the camera. There's a little bit of a dusty tone to it. This is described by China Glaze as a fruity purple. Really good formula, very glossy cream, almost like a kind of Crelly formula, and this was great in 2 coats. This is a good shade actually if you're looking for a nice Pantone ultraviolet purple. I do have quite a few of these purples. This one is very similar. This is Essence Beautiful Lies, On the swatch wheel, they're quite similar. It's a little bit brighter, the China Glaze, and the essence is a little bit more muted, but they are quite similar. So we couldn't finish without having another matte. This is the 5th one, and I was so disappointed because this shade is gorgeous and I would have loved to have had this in a cream. It's that kind of orchid purple that I guess if you put this over a white, it's like a kind of neon orchidy purple. It's not as bright as that, and I really wish this was a cream formula, but unfortunately it's not. And the best thing about this nail polish for me is the name Bougie Board. So the only thing I would say in my recollection that's similar to this is Flying Dragon, and you know what happened to that. It flew out of my collection, destashed, so that's the only one I would say it's comparable to, unfortunately. So here we go with the star of the show. This is the final polish, and this is Ma-HOLO At Me. This is the polish that made me want to buy the collection. It is holographic, and it's a great polish, it's a great finish. It's 3 coats to be opaque. This is the type of holographic that can be quite frustrating to apply, but I love the finish. It's that kind of flat holographic, so it's like a kind of mixture between scattered and linear, but it's the rainbow arches are wider. But this is Ma-HOLO At Me in 2 to 3 coats. So the only polish that I've got that's comparable, I do have another linear holographic from Ada's Nails, but it's a little bit brighter than this, is the Halo Hue Colour Club Over the Moon. Now this is a super holographic, and here's the difference. This is what I mean. So the shade is quite similar. This is the Halo Hue, and it's got much more of that oil slick, you know, running down in a line, whereas this is a much flatter holographic. I like it just as much, if not maybe even a bit more. The only way I can describe this is if you've got Space Race by H&M, it's that kind of holographic that kind of lies flat. But personally, and again, I'm not a great fan of matte formulas, and certainly not China Glaze matte formulas, so this was a real surprise to me because they were not described as mattes. These are the only polishes that I would be interested in wearing or buying from this collection. I am actually going to be destashing the 5 mattes. If mattes are your thing, keep an eye on the destash shop because these are going to be going in there pretty quickly. So of the 7 that I'm keeping, I would say my favourite is definitely the Ma-HOLO At Me, and I am really glad that I picked it up. I also really love these two, which are unusual shades for me, but I don't quite have anything like them in my collection. So these three would be my top picks. Let me know if you're going to be picking any up. I really wish, just as an overall summing up this collection, I'm disappointed and I'm annoyed at myself that I didn't wait for the Holo OMG collection, China Glaze collection, that's coming at some point this year. I wish I hadn't bought this collection. I wish I'd waited and bought that next one. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!